Hello. This is where the magic happens. This is where we produce our video essays. This is our studio. Behind me, you can see I've got some little items that I will be uploading onto um, our website for purchase. Some items for spring. We're trying to, earn an income over here. So please give us a follow on our YouTube channel and subscribe to our Patreon page so you can see some of the video essays that we have made already that we haven't made available to the public yet. Um, but I actually wanted to address some of my concerns that are coming up in the next couple of days. Okay, so March 20th is I guess it's like a freedom rally day or something. I mean, I've seen little memes and posters for it online here and there. And my, my opinion about it is that it's probably something similar to the January 6th rallies that were taking place, and everybody went to the Capitol and they listened to their favorite people speak, and then they left, and then there was this other event that took place, and that event, that orchestrated event, is why we have barbed wire around the Capitol building right now. And why we have certain members in Congress claiming that they were fearing for their lives. So I'm concerned that this March 20th event may turn into something like that, and it may be co opted and presented as something that it's not. So if you're going to attend one of these rallies, or if you're going to be participating in the March 20th thing, just be aware that there could be a possibility for it to be exploited and co opted, and turned into something that it wasn't originally intended for. Another thing I wanted to talk about is something a little more on a personal level. And there is a weekly message that a woman who runs a health clinic out of Ohio does every Friday. She does a video series called Consequences or Unintended Consequences or something like this. And I thought, I could write to her and have her share um, the situation or the story that I wanted to share. That I wanted the message to get out there, and I thought, well, maybe she could share it on her platform. And I thought, well, why? I have my own platform. I can speak for myself. So the other day, I went to go. I was supposed to go meet a friend for coffee or whatever. We were just going to hang out for a little bit, and she texted me and said, I have a telemed doctor's appointment. I know we're supposed to meet at 1. Can we meet at 2? And I said, sure, yeah, no problem. So I went and I met her at 2 o'clock, and she disclosed to me that she was pregnant, and that not only did her doctor, her obstetrician, not keep the telemed appointment, but when she tried to get an in person appointment with her doctor, the person who was answering the phone for the doctor said, "No, we don't need to meet you in the office. If you need an ultrasound or any kind of extra care, you can just go to urgent care and get your ultrasound there, and then we'll go over the results with you on your next telemed appointment." Now, my friend she's at risk. She is past the age of 30, which isn't a big deal. There are lots of, women who are older that have very easy pregnancies and very healthy babies. But her situation is that she had already had a miscarriage last year, and she has a rare illness of some sort that causes her to miscarry. And so she needs extra care. She doesn't need just your typical prenatal care, she needs extra care. And for her obstetrician to simply wave her off and say, oh, well, you can just go do what you need to do at your local urgent care center, and then we'll just have telemed appointments. That's not the extra care that someone like her needs. She needs, not only that, she needs to hear from her doctor that her pregnancy is healthy and that there's no chance of a miscarriage, and that, if she needs to do special things to make sure that she doesn't miscarry again, that she should do those things. I mean, you need to be able to have the doctor touch you and feel your belly and all that stuff, right? So this was really upsetting to her, and she's a very sensitive person to begin with, and it was very troubling to her. This, and then she, this led her to sort of rethink this entire COVID situation that we're in. But before I talk about this discovery that she made based on her personal situation, I want to tell you another story of consequences that has to do with a friend of hers who I don't know. This friend was pregnant with twins and was experiencing some pain, I would say probably about 19 or 20 weeks into the pregnancy. And she called the doctor and said, I'm experiencing some pain, in my uterine area, or my stomach. And the doctor said, oh, well, you're pregnant with twins, so obviously there's going to be a little extra pain. Don't worry about it. And the pain got so bad that she finally went into urgent care, and she apparently had an infection in her uterus, and she lost the twins. Now, when I told this story to my husband, he said, well, those are the goals. The goal is population control. So one of the things that we talked about when we did our very first video called The Hard Reset, back about a week after the national emergency was declared. So I want to say it was probably around March 20th of 2020. You can go back and watch it. We talked about how the entire systems in place that have always cared for us and treated us as if we were individuals that might need the special care we need in order to survive. Everything from healthcare to having an opportunity to get a good job so that we can feed our families and take care of ourselves and pay our rents and mortgages and protection and all these things, we were released. It was as if they had just dropped us, as if we had been dropped. And this is this story about this poor woman who had a simple pain that could have easily been diagnosed and treated for a slight infection that she had. She could have probably gone on, a very low grade antibiotics and taken care of the infection right away. And she probably would have had a healthy pregnancy after that and would have been able to deliver two healthy twins. Sometimes we need antibiotics, right? So it was this, and a similar story came up too, where, somebody else who's a popular podcaster brought up a story about an elderly woman who was very healthy, very robust, very self-sufficient, always able to take care of herself, had a very slight injury or something, and was told by her local doctor and her local clinic that she couldn't come in to treat this very slight, very treatable injury because of COVID. And as a result, the woman is now like completely incapacitated, practically on life support, because it's these kinds of things that have been able to, these kinds of treatments for these small, seemingly insignificant injuries or infections that have been able to be quickly diagnosed and then treated, and then we can go on with our lives and live on to be healthy human beings. And by letting us go and not treating these and not allowing us to be treated for these very slight little injuries or infections, it has a larger consequence in the future. And these stories are coming coming down the pipeline, so to speak. You're hearing stories here and there of people who were not given the care that they needed. Very slight care, nothing really intense. They were not given the care that they needed, and it turned into something a lot worse. And that's what we meant by the hard reset over a year ago, where they have really just dropped us completely. I have another friend who is concerned about how he's going to continue to earn an income, because he believes that the kind of service that he provides for his clientele is going to go away, is going to be phased out as a result of this great economic reset. And so he's like, what am I going to do for, and these are all things that are part of the agenda, right? They're part of the plan, so to speak. So when my friend was telling me about her own situation and about not being able to see her doctor to make sure that this pregnancy was, healthy and safe and that she wouldn't have another miscarriage, here's some of the things that she said to me. She said, I run my own business. And I like having a little extra income on the side. My husband has a corporate job, so I'm covered through his insurance. He brings in good money. So it's not like I need my business, but it's nice to have something of my own that I have curated over the years, that I've actually gone to school for and trained for. And I'm very good at what I do. And I have established a good base of, a good clientele for the kind of service that I provide. And when COVID came along, I happily closed my business. I shut down my business and I stopped earning an income, and I didn't receive any stimulus money when I did that, but I happily did it for the good of the community. So I closed my business for months, and I went without, that additional income. And then when I was finally allowed to reopen my business, I did it very cautiously. I took temperature checks of my clients. I asked my clients to wear a mask. I followed all of the rules and regulations. I have followed all of the rules around this, looking out for the community, this community good. I have done everything right. I have gone above and beyond what I needed to do to make sure that the public was safe and to look out for the good of the community. And yet, the community has turned their back on me. I can't seem to find a doctor that's willing to meet me in person and check out my pregnancy to make sure that it's safe and viable, and that, here I am, an at-risk pregnant woman, and I'm not getting the treatment that I need. I did my part. Why aren't other people doing their part? And I meet with clients on a very personal basis. I'm up close and personal to them. And my doctor is also up close and personal to me. So why is it okay for me to meet with clients, but it's not okay for my doctor to meet with clients or patients because of COVID? So you see, we have a real problem here. And this is a problem that was to be expected. And this is a problem that's been diagnosed for a whole year. And we're now starting to see the negative outcomes and the fallout from these problems. And I'm imagining we're going to hear more and more stories like this. And I imagine that there will be more and more people who, from the very beginning, we're totally on board with all of this. Let's think of the community good. Let's make sure that we keep everybody safe. Let's do everything right. And all of those people that did everything right and twisted themselves into a pretzel to please their community leaders and to make sure that the community was safe are now going, well, wait a minute, I did everything right, and I'm not seeing the benefit of everything I did. I'm not seeing the benefit of my sacrifice. And so I think we're going to start having more and more conversations like that. And you, who have said from the very beginning, do not shut your business down. Do not treat this situation like it's a health crisis, because it's not. You who have been at the forefront of this, encouraging people to stand up for themselves, you are going to need to be there for those people who realize that all of the sacrifices they made were for nothing. You're going to need to be there for them to help them pick up the pieces, kind of like I'm there for her, for my friend. And it might have to be a one-on-one kind of situation where you're helping someone that you know personally, or it could be more of a larger message where you might have to create like an online group that said, have you made the sacrifices, and have you not seen the benefit of those sacrifices, and you're starting to see the fallout from making the sacrifices? If that's you and you're questioning why you made the sacrifices to begin with, then come on over here and we'll help. So we're really going to need to help those people now. So last but not least, I wanted to ask you to please become a patron. We have a video essay that we've made that's about an hour long, and we've broken it up into 3 parts. It's called 13 Amended, and it's only available to our patrons. And the patrons who have seen it and the donors who have seen it really like it, and they've encouraged people to become a patron, and they've shared our work, and we really appreciate that. So if you want to see this latest video essay that we did that's not available to the public, become a patron. And also, we are working on 3 new videos right now. We're working on one for one of our patrons. It was an idea that she had. It has something to do with property rights, and we just finished the script for that. And then we're also working on another video essay that has to do with kind of what I just talked about, the community sacrifices that people are making, and the outcomes of those sacrifices, and the pitfalls and the dangers of making those kinds of sacrifices. When those sacrifices are demanded by the state, then it's never good. There will be no benefit to those sacrifices. That's what history tells us. And then the third video is a video sketchbook that JP just finished the script for. And it's about globotics, and it's very, he spent a lot of time looking at robot videos to make this video essay, or to make this video sketchbook. So we're looking forward to producing that. So there's quite a few things going on over here in our art studio. And I wanted to just bring that to your attention. And then the last thing I want to say is that when those people do come to you and they say, I did everything right, I made all the sacrifices, and yet I'm not seeing the benefit of those sacrifices. Why did this happen, and how did we get here? Well, it's kind of a long answer, but not really. Typically what happens when a society is taken over by a corrupt government, the people in that society band together, and they put aside their party differences, and they band together to remove the corrupt individuals that are dictating to them. So they remove the corruption, and they right the wrongs, and they reinitiate democracy, in whatever form that they can. Once they have discovered that there's corruption, and once that they have discovered that their power as you know, as a people powered democracy has been rendered impotent. Over the last, I would say, 50 years or so, the United States has been really good about diagnosing the corruption in our leadership. You know, whether it's just corrupt leaders in general that get installed, or whether they are bought and paid for by corporate interests. You know, thus abandoning the will and the needs of the people who they're supposed to be representing. That's the problem with representational democracy. But where the United States has fallen short is it hasn't done anything beyond the diagnosis of all this corruption, which we have been diagnosing for, you know, my entire life. Beyond that, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to remove the corrupted officials from their seats of power and take over. This is what's been done for 10,000 years. This is how you right the wrongs in a corrupted democracy. And that's where the United States fell short. They were busy diagnosing it. You know, we had the printing press, which would diagnose it. You know, sometimes you could go to church and you could talk about the corrupt political machine. Sometimes you would even learn about it in school, but nothing was ever done. Nobody ever walked into their local municipalities' offices, or their local nonprofits, or their local congressional, you know, leader's office, or their state senator's office, and said, "Okay, you're done. It's time for you to go, and it's time to put these people who represent the will and the drive of, you know, America back into place." And that's how it is. No one ever did that. So we're busy diagnosing everything that's wrong, and we get it. We know that it's corrupt, and we know that it's fraud, and we know that our electoral process is very fraudulent. And I would say that over the last few decades, the electoral process has been more of an installation of, like, say, a president, rather than an actual election where, you know, somebody is actually elected into their position through the voting process. And I would say the one time that democracy actually did peek its little head up above all the corruption and all the fraud and all the rigging in the electoral process was when Donald Trump was installed. And the people really showed their true power when they voted him into office. And it took everybody by surprise. It took me by surprise. It took the establishment by surprise. I saw the shock on Barack Obama's face. He was incredulous. He was shocked. The people had actually said, despite your rigging and despite your fraud, and despite the fact that, you know, our democracy and our electoral process has been, you know, paid for and bought by the corporate interests that now own it, we were still able to move past all of that and push past it and install the man we wanted. And that scared the establishment. That scared them so much that they needed to come up with a way to make sure that the next logical step in this process, which would be to walk into those offices and replace those corrupted individuals with uncorrupted individuals, people who would actually represent the will of the voting public or the constituents, they wanted to make sure that that process never took place. Enter COVID. So what a better way to keep people from entering into those offices and asserting their individual power and their individual rights. What better way to keep that from happening than to tell them that if they leave their house, they could either kill grandma or be killed by grandma. So that was how that was done. And so when those people do come to you and say, I did everything right, I believed that there was a deadly pathogen, and I certainly believed all of the science and all this stuff, and yet I'm not seeing the benefit of all my efforts, then you can tell them, because it's not about, benefiting you. It's about taking away from you. It's about extracting from you and taking away your power and taking away your individual rights and taking away what it means to be a human being. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. Please share our videos and become a patron. Thanks. Bye.
Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.